90-year lifespan concerned with only one day in it. That one day is this lifetime. The lifespan is eternity. See the point? How nuts would you consider a person who is going to have a 90, if you heard a person is going to have a 90-year lifespan, but they're only focusing on one day in that 90 years, and that's really all their attention is going to, is that one day. That's what you're doing. That's what everybody's doing who isn't completely aware of the eternal nature of things, who hasn't come to the realization that the eternal is right now, and that obviously the eternal is the only thing that matters. Because how can one day out of 90 years matter more than the rest of the 90 years? All the other days somehow aren't very important, don't need any attention, just that one day. So your focus on this life and what this life means and how to make life good and your experience of this life is like the man who's focusing on one day out of 90 years. You're ignoring the rest of the 90 years. You're ignoring the eternity. You're deluded because you're hypnotized into thinking that this life, you're not to blame. The society teaches you that this is all important stuff and you got to make this life good. They don't teach you there's eternal life and put your eggs in that basket, because obviously that's the only thing the smart money would ever do. Obviously, you wouldn't bet everything on one day out of 90 years, but that's what you do when you focus too much on this life and not enough on the divine and the eternal. You see the point? Did I make it good enough that you can grasp it? Because you need to get this so clear, absolutely, because it will absolutely transform you. It will transform all the transfer. Here's a good way to say it. It'll take all the transformations you've already experienced and transform them into the right approach going forward. Because you don't yet have the right orientation. It'll reorient you. It's like a course correction. It'll reorient you to the more correct course, which is to be palpably aware of the eternal nature of things, the infinite nature of things, and the divine nature of things. If you're aware of it involuntarily, without trying to remember it, without trying to make something happen, then you'll naturally, easily, simple in principle, go in the right direction. Then you will more and more deepen in your discipleship. You will more and more use it as the vehicle to become really, really aware of the infinite, really, really aware of the sacred, really, really aware of the actual God that is, not some idea of God. And then you will actually have no barriers to becoming truly self-realized, truly God-conscious. The biggest barrier you have, the biggest barrier you've always had, and the biggest barrier you will continue to have till you surmount it. I'm talking to you about how to surmount it. I'm always talking to you about how to surmount it. Is this focus that you've been hypnotized into by society, from the day you were born, this focus on yourself and this life, this lifetime. Because you've been taught this is all you get. You haven't been taught that the day you die, nothing changes except this form goes away. You haven't been taught the day after you die, you'll still be a conscious, living being. You haven't been taught that. You've been taught this life is all you get. So you better make the most of it. Well, if that's what you've been taught from where you're so young, that's deep in you, and it's not really been deconditioned yet, we haven't deprogrammed it enough, or you haven't allowed it to be deprogrammed enough that it's actually no longer, that misconception is no longer operating in you, of course you're going to focus on this life way too much. Of course you're going to think that I matter, and my life matters, and how I feel matters, and what happens in my life matters, and if I'm rich or poor matters, and if I'm smart or dumb matters, and if I'm thin or fat, pretty or ugly, all these things matter. And none of these things matter whatsoever. These things are just fun. These things are just the entertainment part. But you're taking them as the meat and the potatoes when they're actually simply the icing on the cake. Get the point? So here's the real point. When you enjoy a positive orientation to the teaching and to the spiritual master who communicates and demonstrates it. In other words, when you enjoy divine communion. You get it? Divine communion. What's he saying and what am I trying to explain to you? Somebody else say it. From the interweb, say it. Speak, anybody. Come on, we don't have all the time in the world.
When you bend to the divine.
All we have is eternity. We don't have all the time in the world. Okay, go ahead. Say it again, Aiden.
I said, when you bend to the divine. And you choose the guru's way over your way.
Okay, but not quite. I mean, of course, just like the other thing, nobody can give a wrong answer to what I'm asking for. They'll all be correct, but they'll all be aspects. I'm trying to make one very specific and very important, in fact, downright critical point. Can anybody guess it? Let me read the sentence again. The sentence is simply the clue on how to interpret it. When you enjoy a positive orientation to the teaching and to the spiritual master, so that's not the important part for what I'm getting at. The important part is, in other words, when you enjoy divine communion. What is the definition within this context of how I'm interpreting what he's saying? What is the definition? What does he mean by divine communion? What's he talking about?
Is my mic on?
What?
By being a disciple?
Yes, but what's specifically trying to be clarified here when he says when you enjoy divine communion? It means as a disciple, in some form, you found discipleship of any kind, meaning you are recognizing something greater than yourself. You said what?
You're living in the master. Living in the master.
Yeah, but these are all, it's all going to be correct, but these are conceptualizations about what's going on. This is referring to an actuality that you are missing, that's so obvious, so simple, so true, so unmistakable that you're missing it completely. You just walk right over it.
It's an inner experience. It's
Happy disciple.
The people online are begging to hear the people in the audience, so can you, it takes 20 seconds to walk up front and just talk. Can we do that, please?
Or should I pass this microphone?
That's fine, too.
That would be a lot easier than people trying to come up to say a few words. Can I do that? Don't do that, okay.
If you stop that, I'll make an alteration.
How come nobody online is guessing except Alessandro?
Theo's ready to guess. Go ahead, Theo.
Being a happy disciple.
Yeah, like I said, nobody will say anything that isn't 100% correct, but I'm looking for a meaning here. When you enjoy divine communion, what's the point that he's trying to make and that I'm trying to make?
Devotion
Think of
to
everything
the
we've discussed. Think of everything I've said, and the culmination of that is, in other words, link the two. Everything I've said, and now he says, and when you enjoy divine communion, what's the link?
That
Hold
nothing.
Hold on, Alana, Kirk, and then you.
And Davina and Alana.
Okay.
well, divine communion is an inner experience. It's not conceptual. It's just
Believe
something.
it or not, you still have to speak up. I can't hear you at all.
I'll leave
I
this
got it.
microphone.
He does have that kind of.
I have a soft voice.
From the back of his being voice, it's so mellifluous. But yeah, it's even when you got the microphone literally on your mouth,
I'm chewing
you
on
have to
this thing.
speak up.
Yeah. But it's an inner experience. It's something.
You're very, very close, but there's a simpler, more direct and clear way to say it. That's correct, but that's not the point. But you've got it. You're just not communicating it. Who was next? Dabina?
The call board is
Alana.
setting up.
Okay.
Which they can't hear me now. Because you have the mic.
Thanks, Gary.
I have Alana, Davina.
All right, just tell someone to speak.
I can't.
Yeah, Dabina. Okay, Alana.
Being in divine as a disciple, your guru, understanding your location in.
Start again from the beginning. We just had start again.
Okay, so being in divine communion is a disciple-master relationship with the full understanding of the disciple being at the intersection of infinity and eternity.
That's the correct answer, but it's not being said in a way. It's being said in a way that makes the real meaning obscure.
Okay.
So, did Theo give his answer? Did I miss it, or did he not speak yet? Because you said Theo.
I did speak.
Oh, what'd you say?
My answer at that time was being a happy disciple.
That's right, being a happy disciple. Yeah, they're all correct. All right, so let me give you the game.
Okay.
Who else? There's one more?
She's at an airport.
Oh.
She's a type that when self disappears in unity consciousness, and then Mania also has a 5 ways.
Okay, well, let's just move right along, and I'll give you the answer, because we can't play these we can't have fun all the time. Some understanding has to be arising. All right, so here's the point. Here's the real point. This is so important that literally your eternity depends on it. Do I have your attention?
I'm sorry, what?
Let me have a sip of coffee for pregnant potency to make a dramatic, so that you wait and the tension builds. But actually, I just wanted a sip of coffee. So I'm going to read this whole sentence, and this time I want you to get it. I'm going to read the whole sentence, and I want you to hear the meaning of it. And then I'm going to explain it to make sure you got it. Now listen to this with the most highest intelligence in you so that you hear the actual communication. When you enjoy a positive orientation to the teaching and to the teacher, in other words, when you enjoy divine communion, hearing the teaching and being with the teacher is divine communion. That's the point. Your idea is divine communion is why you became a disciple, so you can find it in the future, so you can get enlightened, so you can get God realized, so you can get self-realized, so you can find truth, so you can go to source, so you can know spirit directly. It's a future concept. It's something you're striving toward. It's something you have to get to. He's saying it very, very clearly, and it's true, and you've got to get it. In other words, that's very important. In other words, because that's what we're saying. You're not getting it because you're not getting that. In other words, there's another way to look at it. Discipleship isn't about what you're going to get in the future. It isn't about God consciousness that you're going to get in the future. When you enjoy, in other words, when you enjoy divine communion, in other words, you're getting it right now. What you need to understand in a fuller, richer, deeper, way more elemental, simple way is that discipleship is divine communion. Discipleship is the actual, right now, divine experience. It is the experience of communion with the divine in this moment. And you do not have to experience it as a big deal, as a blissful event, as a full-on mystical happening, because how you experience it is however you're experiencing this moment. If you're at a ball game, that's how you're going to experience the divine communion, that it includes being at a ball game. If you're making lunch, that's how you're going to experience it, as it includes making lunch. Now, your focus can be on the ball game and your primary focus can be on making lunch, or you can have only the focus that's necessary for making lunch, on making lunch, and the rest of your focus on the divine communion. And when you're at the ball game, you can enjoy the ball game to the maximum ability if you like that kind of thing. and they are fun for people who enjoy them. They're fun as can be. You can have the maximum fun and have as much focus and attention on it as you need to have the maximum fun, and still have the remainder of your attention and the remainder of your consciousness quite aware of the divine communion. Nothing has to be given up in life, and nothing has to be given up in you for that divine communion to become a much more real, palpable, and connected part of your experience. And that's what discipleship offers among the many opportunities that are embedded in the nature of discipleship. But this is the most important one that you've got to grasp. If you're a disciple, that's why I asked who joined us and everything at the beginning, since I got the list of who's on the telephone and who's online and who we can't see and who we can't see, not just who's in the room, because I wanted to see how many non-disciples, because I didn't want to go into this in a very lengthy way if it's half disciples and half non-disciples, but it's all disciples, and it's worth going into, because that's the point, is you're waiting needlessly. You're waiting. Your idea, unconsciously and even consciously at times, is that the discipleship is about what's going to arrive in the future. Enlightenment's going to come. God's going to arrive. Truth will be accessed, whatever it is. And that's a basic misunderstanding. If discipleship has already occurred, then whatever is supposed to arrive or is meant to arrive for you has arrived. You've just got to catch up with it. So the divine communion that you think is, if you luck out and succeed in this discipleship game, the divine communion that's ahead, it's not ahead. It's behind you. It's already occurred, and it's going on now continuously. That's why you're here right now in this moment in this house. Think about it. I mean, sense it, that something drew you today to be here just today, because there's many opportunities. Some you're at, some you're not at. Why are you here today? Because in this one you responded as, yes, I'm going to take the opportunity. Yes, I'm going to take the trouble to actually be there, whether it's online or whether it's in person. That happened. You think it happened because you were in the right mood or you wanted to. It really happened because you recognized that this is divine communion for real, and you wanted to partake of it a little more directly because the opportunity's there. You get that? Yes? So discipleship is, and anytime you approach any way that truth is available, it's not about what's gonna happen. It's about what's already happened. It's about the fact that you've recognized already, not necessarily consciously acknowledged it for yourself or been able to communicate it to yourself so that you have an interpretation of it or a understanding of it, but nevertheless the experience is true and correct, that this is the communion. The communion is not something you're trying to establish. The communion is something you're trying to experience because it's already going on. It was not going on in a experienceable way prior to discipleship, prior to some kind of surrender to something larger, more significant and more eternal than your human, this lifetime focus. Because it isn't only discipleship with a bona fide guru. It's any type of discipleship. There are people who are the disciples of the redwood trees. Ramana Maharshi was a disciple of a mountain, a sacred mountain in southern India. That's valid. It doesn't have to be, the guru doesn't have to be in a human form, because it's not about the guru. It's about the disciple. It's about, can you surrender to truth? Can you surrender? Can you give yourself up? Can you stop the obsessive self-focus so that you actually give yourself up to what's vaster, greater, and truly eternal. Because you're already part of it. You're already it. But can you recognize it in such a way that it begins to actually manifest itself as you, so that you end up living as life, living as love, living as the divine, living as the eternal, not as a self-obsessed little creature that's trying to perfect itself, doomed to failure, because perfecting yourself doesn't work. But opening yourself to the divine perfection that always is, that's another matter. That's not the same process. Divine communion isn't about perfecting yourself. It's about accessing the actual situation that you're in, having the correct understanding and orientation to actual life, which is a divine situation, not a worldly situation. The worldly part is there. Nobody, you'd be a fool to deny that, right? You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to, in Los Angeles at least, you got to wear clothes or you get arrested. There's certain things you've got to do. That's the worldly part. There's no need to be in rebellion to that, because obviously that has a role to play. Obviously that's here for a reason too. And you don't have to figure out what it is. You have to just handle it sufficiently so that you can devote yourself to what you really want to devote yourself to, which is the life divine, which is the eternal part of life, which is the fact that you are right now in the eternal moment. You are not in Saturday morning. Saturday morning is just a practical term. The actuality is you are right now in eternity, where you've always been, where you'll always be. Because existence can't be anywhere else. There's nowhere else to be. There's no other context for anything. There's no other place. And there's no other time except the eternal moment of now. Divine communion is more and more knowing that, so it actually is, whether you like it or not, want it to be or not, perceptible to you all the time. That doesn't make you higher. That just makes you more aware of the facts. That doesn't make you better than Joe Schmo. It just makes you more aware of the reality than Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo may actually be having a much nicer life than you. But if your choice is between a nice life that's diluted and a not as pleasant life, but you know something about the actual facts, my recommendation is you choose the second one. That you choose an awakened life over a good life. Good life is booby prize on the cheesy side. You can take all your life energy, and if you really expend it, you'll make a good life. It can be done with enough, focus, intent. If you're really persistent, if you really have a I won't give up attitude, and you want to make your life really great and have a truly pleasant life, you can do it. And you'll have wasted your entire life. But if you put that same energy into your eternal life, which I guarantee you is going on and will go on, the day you die, that's not the end. And the next day after that, you'll be somewhere. You'll be quite amazed. If you don't fully know and accept that yet, and you die without having fully known and accepted that, you'll be shocked and amazed that you'll still be there. You'll go, oh my God, they were right. So if you don't know it from any experience of your own or any deep insight or anything else, you really should just accept it. Of course, if you're a disciple, you should accept it as fact, because I'm telling you, absolutely factually, it's so, that it's beyond question. It's not a theory. I'm not telling you something I believe. I'm telling you what I know for sure. So put to bed any ideas that there's an end to anything. And then you'll have the right attitude of seriousness, responsibility, but with not an overly serious approach. Because I like what's at the end of that paragraph. Nothing ultimate is at stake. It's just the game of the universe. So that's what you've been taught, is that this is a life and death affair, this lifetime. Being you, being in this life, being on this earth, having one shot at having a good life or being happy. And that those are the ultimate stakes. Either you have a good life or you don't. And those are the ultimate stakes. And trying to stay alive both as long as you can, longevity, and as well as you can, having the best life possible. Being as happy as you can possibly be for whatever the reasons are, because different people are made happy by different things. The worldly happiness we're only talking about. The spiritual happiness is not about things. But some people are very happy if they own a lot of sports cars, and other people are very happy if they have a lot of money in the bank, and other people are very happy if they have a ton of friends, and they don't care about sports cars or money in the bank. So it's whatever floats your boat. But if you're still in the delusion that we're taught by society that these are the ultimate stakes, whether we get what we want, those are the ultimate stakes, then you're still in the delusion, that's what he's talking about, that there's something serious going on here in this worldly aspect, that it matters how your life turns out, it matters what your experience is, it matters what you accomplish or don't accomplish, and it matters whether you see yourself as a winner or a loser, whether you win at this game or you lose at this game, all that matters. And what that's saying, of course, is that none of it matters. Ultimately, that this is not serious, this life business, because it simply is something that you find yourself in. You didn't create it, you didn't ask for it, you didn't sign up for it, you didn't get it on layaway. You just woke up one day and you were here. And I've said this many times, and someday somebody's going to get it. The only experience you've ever had and will ever have is waking up to this moment. Every moment you're waking up to this moment. What you think of as your moment-to-moment experience is the only experience you can have, and it is the experience of being awake to this moment, aware of this moment. Whatever you notice and whatever you experience about this moment, that's it. But that's what you don't see necessarily, is that that's a kind of waking up. It's kind of like when you wake up in the morning when you've been asleep all night. That you're doing that every second. You just, in other words, find yourself here right now. And now again, you find yourself here. But you don't see the arising of it. You think of it because you experience it, because you've been taught conceptually that it's continuous. It's not continuous. When you die, it'll discontinue and you'll have a different experience. But that doesn't mean it's continuous while you're alive. It's actually not. That's just how we experience it, because if we experienced it how it really was, we wouldn't be able to function at all. Because it's more like lightning striking every nanosecond. That's how life actually functions. How can you say it? How it works mechanically from a metaphysical side. That's not the actuality. I'm just trying to give you a flavor. There's no way to describe it in words. So all you ever actually are focused on, because you're taught to focus exclusively on it, is the content of the moment. What's going on, or what you think is going on. Who am I with? What am I seeing? Am I feeling good inside? Is the sun shining or is it cloudy? Do I like it? Do I not like it? In other words, that's all you're focused on all the time. That's the content, not the actuality. The actuality is the waking up, finding yourself here right now. Right now, bing, you find yourself here. That's the only real thing going on. The content is fluff. The content is just the window dressing, the scenery, the set design. We all know set design. When you go to a play, we all know the set design is artificial. It's not a real inside of a house. It's all made out of cardboard. That's what the content of life is. It's set design. So nothing ultimate is at stake. If it burns down, the house hasn't burned down. Some cardboard burned down. You can easily replace it and paint some new scenery. Takes an afternoon. You don't have to rebuild a house. That takes 6 months, a year, 2 years. So you're relating to it as if it burned down, it's the most terrible thing. The house burned down. No, just some scenery caught fire and can easily be dealt with. Right? You see the point? So, what did he say? Nothing, I don't even have to say. Nothing ultimate is at stake. You get it? Nothing ultimate. This life, this lifetime, and your direct experience of yourself as a human being has nothing ultimate in it. This is just the display. This is just the stage setting. The ultimate part, it has something ultimate in it, but it's not related to all that. It's not related to the window dressing. The ultimate part is the inner divine actuality and true experiencing of the nature of consciousness itself, which is divinity itself. So it's a shift of focus. It's a shift of what you're aware of from the set design to the fact that somebody wrote this play. This is just the set over here. These are actors. Oh, turns out I'm an actor too. Turns out I'm on the stage. But what's this all about? The meaning of the thing. That's the only part that matters. If you believe you are living a life, you'll have a very different attitude than if you recognize that you're in a play. If you believe that you're somebody, you'll have a very different attitude than if you recognize and see for yourself that I'm just acting out a role I've been given. Then you'll not take it so serious. If you realize you're an actor in a play and you've been thinking you made up these things you say, and you suddenly wake up to the fact that, and it is a fact, that I've been given these lines, I've memorized them. I've memorized them so well that they become real to me. I'm such a good actor that I've gotten lost in the part and convinced myself that I'm this person and it's really going on. Oh, wait a minute. It's a play. How could I forget? It's a play. And I'm going home after the performance. That's what waking up is. Recognizing what's really going on. And you are simply finding yourself here every moment. That is one kind of waking up. Let me say it again, because I'm going to keep saying it till everybody gets it, which will probably take another 10 years. You've never had any experience at all other than waking up in this moment. In other words, finding yourself right here, right now, wherever it is, and whatever the nature of it, and however you experience it, that's all that's ever happened, is you've found yourself here. You experience it very clearly as that when you wake up for the first second in the morning in your bed or out in the road if it's during your drinking days. You wake up and you realize for 1 second, oh, I was gone and here, now I'm here. And oh yeah, I'm me, and I'm, you're oriented suddenly. You orient yourself. You kind of congeal. You bring everything to bear, and you remember who you are and what you're supposed to do, and what happened yesterday, what happened 30 years ago, and who's your mother, and who's your daddy, and all that stuff. But 1 second before you woke up, none of that was there. None of that was conscious for you. And then you woke up, and then consciousness happened. You have all these experiences and ideas and memories, and you can look backwards in all the days before, and you can look forwards all the days to come that you assume are coming, but you know something's coming. Every morning you have this experience. What I'm trying to help you see and get, and it's my own observation, I've never heard anyone else put it this way, it's what makes me absolutely brilliant. It's so original. I just am floored by it. That waking up in the morning, 1 second experience that I'm referring to, you're having that every second. Every second you just wake up, here I am. Because imagine the opposite. Another second comes and you're gone. You don't have the recognition. You don't have the kind. It's like you fell back asleep. You've also had that experience in the morning. You wake up, you're awake for a few seconds. You don't have, it's Saturday or Sunday, you don't have to go to work, and you decide to just catch a few more winks and you go right back to sleep. That could happen right now. And that's what will happen when you die. You'll simply go back to sleep. You won't be aware of this anymore. You'll find yourself. You won't wake up to this moment the way you experience it now. You'll wake up to this moment in a different display of experience, a different nature of experience, a different kind of experiencing. That doesn't involve everything you've experienced in this life at all. Just, it all goes away, literally. It's as if it never happened. That's why I can say with such unhesitating and blunt manner that nothing in this life matters. Because I know it for fact, because I experienced it. I've been shown directly, I've been to the other side. That all this, when it goes away, 1 second later, it's as if it never happened, because literally it's gone. Literally, you can't even remember it. All you're aware of is what's essential in you. And what's essential in you, what happens here in this tiny life, in this tiny planet, in this tiny moment, can affect what's essential in you and grow that, expand that, make that more in line with the divine. And if it does that, and that's what this life is for, if it does that, then that's what you'll experience when you're outside this body, when you're dead, when this life is over. You'll have the benefit of that. You'll be a bigger being. Your consciousness will be purer and more towards the divine, and you'll be in a better position. It's a simple, greedy way to say it. And you should be in a better position. Why not be moving toward heaven if the alternative is you're moving toward hell? Why wouldn't you want to be going in the good direction? And that's how that happens, it's not about heaven and hell, those are just conceptual terms. It's about your orientation. It's about what you're aware of. And this moment is the opportunity, and every moment, to be oriented more toward what really matters, which is simply what's going to always be the case. Whether you're alive or dead, whether you're you or someone else, whether you're a rock or an aardvark or a tree or another universe. You're indestructible. everybody knows that nothing is destroyed in this universe. That it just goes back, and this planet goes back into the soil or into the atmosphere. In the universal sense, it just transmutes into something else or just pure energy. Everybody knows, really, today, in these times, in educated societies and Aboriginal societies, it's always been known, and it'll never not be known, that everything is energy and everything just changes form. Nothing is created new or destroyed. It's not possible. Physics has come to that conclusion already 50, 60 years ago. That's what all modern physics is based on. It's non-debatable. So you already know that you're indestructible, that your atoms and molecules and neutrinos and whatever you want to, however minute you want to get in a description. And when you get into the metaphysical side, it's impossible to describe because you're talking about, and physics has even discovered particles that don't exist. Wrap your mind around that. None of that is destroyable. None of that can be eradicated. None of that goes away. So nothing in you can ever go away. So obviously you continue somehow. You don't even have to accept that you continue as essentially what's the essential consciousness in you now. You don't even have to go that far. You don't even have to have that much faith if you haven't experienced it. You can simply look at the physics of it, that energy transmutes. This is accepted now, and in scientific, so-called scientific terms, and nothing is really destroyed ever. It's just recycled. Nature is the grand recycler, and nature itself is recycled cosmically. And the cosmic itself is recycled by the divine. Because you think of nature as representing the cosmic, and nature is not the cosmic. And you think of the cosmic as representing the divine, and the cosmic is not the divine. So it's all recycled, and it's all unitary, not divided, not separate pieces. And now here you are in discipleship, and you're still operating probably with the idea that something's ahead, that you're in this game to get somewhere. And what Adida is saying, in other words, when you enjoy divine communion, he's saying, if discipleship has happened to you, that is the divine communion. You've arrived. You've gotten on the boat. It isn't the voyage will begin at some point in the future. The voyage is in full progress. That's what I want you to get. Are you getting it? Because that will absolutely help you to drop the needless worry, the needless anxiety, the needless concern for yourself and your situation and how things work out in the future. Just remember, things work out in the future one and only one way: you die. The rest will take care of itself. You don't have to be too overly concerned. That doesn't mean don't take care of your business. Doesn't mean don't handle your life. It means don't think that how that goes is the definition of you or what the real meaning of your life is. I want you to get to the point where you have involuntary awareness of the divine, which includes always involuntary awareness of the vastness of things, the eternal nature of things, and the infinite nature of things. That infinity and eternity is your location and your situation. And that is the divine actuality of things. So that you're not overly preoccupied with this moment, the problems of this moment, this body, this life, this set of feelings that is passing, coming and going, because it's just factually so. It's just the truth. It's just the actuality itself that right now it's all going on. And you can become aware of it. Why have I been focusing now for weeks on practicing mindfulness, awareness? That's the end goal of that practice. The end goal is if you become aware all the way, you'll be aware of God. All the way, all the time. Then it becomes not a practice. Then it becomes simply your direct seeing that doesn't ever waver. You haven't created something new. You've simply developed the ability to see what was always right there and available and easily seeable, but you are, obscured in your vision by all kinds of nonsense you've been taught from the time you were born. You've simply been taught wrong. You've been taught to look the wrong way, hear the wrong way, feel the wrong way, and think the wrong way. And none of this is a problem. It can all be set right. Childhood is when you have no choice, and adulthood is when you get to choose if you prefer reality over what you've been taught. And if the call to discipleship happened for you, you've made that choice, or else the call would have never happened. That call, that calling, that heart urge is a reflection of what you already decided in you, not consciously, and in some cases, partly consciously. You already decided well before, no matter how the discipleship aspect came to you, you already decided well before that you are absolutely willing for what's real. Otherwise, it's not possible, because all the rest of this planet's humanity, which is the vast majority of people who are living conventionally in conventional ideas and the conventional way of living and the conventional view of things, which is all concept-based rather than experience-based. In other words, they're living in their mind. They're not really living. They're living the conditioned life. They've also decided, I'm not really interested. You've decided, I am interested. That's why this happened. That's why I ended up in your life. Or if you're the disciple of someone else, why they ended up in your life. Or if you're a disciple of a holy mountain in India, that's why that happened. Because you decided already, somewhere along the line, either long before or 1 minute before, that you would prefer the truth, you would prefer the actual facts over a nice story, a pleasant fiction. You would prefer a real life over a fictionally pleasant life. You already chose reality. You already chose truth. You already chose God long before you, usually long before you recognized any movement in the direction of those things. So you thought it came to you, but you actually did decide. I guarantee you decided. I guarantee you decided and didn't know you decided, because there's another moment that can come, and does come for most people, when they actually do decide consciously. They think about it and they decide, and they think they decided in that moment, but that moment happened because they decided unconsciously long before. Because it takes a while to get from the original unconscious, more soul decision to the conscious mind decision. That's usually not a few days in between. That's usually years in human terms. And I speak in human terms because we're required to. But I'm trying to speak about what has nothing to do with human terms, in human terms. That's why you have to keep interpreting the right way. Okay, this turned into more of a discourse. So whoever wants to stay, even though we're officially at time, will continue, because I want to give you guys a chance to comment, ask, report, or whatever you want to share. Go! I get to drink my coffee now. I only drink coffee these days in these online satsangs, actually. The rest of the time, I don't ever have it. And if we had online satsangs in the evening, I wouldn't have it. It's only because we have it in the morning, before noon. Yeah, I have no more. The only vices I have left are you. I'm not even a regular smoker, a coffee drinker, or anything else. At my age, I don't even routinely masturbate. Questions, comments, reports? Yes.
Well, okay.
You'll take care of it.
Yeah, sit down.
Okay, oh yeah, Mike. I was like, could also hold the other mic. That was easy.
No, it's the feed.
It's nice to see you too. It's nice to see you too.
Okay. I've had an experience lately with work where things have been quite busy and hectic and borderline chaotic. And the experience has been that my mind is still full of chatter and distraction and thinking and playing what needs to get done and making lists, etc. But there's no weight to it. There isn't the seriousness of that chatter there.
Or putting a cushion.
You can use a cushion.
Those walls stain easily with human oil. We found out the hard way.
So there's no seriousness to or weight to the mind chatter around it. It's going on.
All right, don't tell us the story. Get to say the point and then tell us the backstory if needed. What's the point you're going to make?
The point is, we talked a few weeks back in online satsang, and you mentioned that the end of worry was possible for me, and it feels like
For you? I said it's possible for you, or I said it's possible for anybody. Just remind me.
But you were saying specifically for me that I was getting close to the end of worry.
And you actually believed me.
I do believe you, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And this experience feels like further evidence of that. And my question is, does eventually the mind chatter go away as well? Or does...
That's up to you.
Okay.
The mind chatter is an automatic pilot kind of thing, and it's also a very, very ingrained thing because it's taught to you so early and it's so reinforced by everything, really. Everything that the worldly aspect of things includes really tends to, in subtle ways, reinforce it powerfully and continuously. So that takes more conscious focus and actual working on to get that whole mechanism to slow down, ease off, and eventually shut down. But the part about you can be worry-free, worry can be not a part of your life anymore, that doesn't require any of that kind of more concerted effort. That can happen in a simple, natural, easy process way, and everybody who is with me is on the road to worry becoming something you can't do anymore. I'm unplugging it as fast as I can. Some of you just are more insistent on keeping it than others. I mean, it could be unplugged for everybody yesterday if you would quit fighting me and allow it, but I can't fault you for that because that's what we humans do. I did it as much as you do it, if not more. Until you don't do that anymore, until you're actually surrendered to truth, until truth is actually calling the shots, until God is actually the context of things for real, not just something you know, that it's your actual direct experience without any gap, without ever ceasing. Until that's the case, some kind of resistance is inevitable because that's your makeup. The fact that you experience yourself as you do, as separate, that in itself is resistance. It's resistance to the actuality. So how can you not resist the guru who is the messenger, the harbinger of that reality? You're resisting the reality itself. Of course, you're going to resist the spokesperson for it too. It's not your fault, but you can do your best to do it less, to catch it more, and to try to soften it and actually even remove it. Actually do better. Actually step over it. That takes awareness and consciousness. That takes the effort of consciousness. But worry leaving you is not an effortful process, because once you're in discipleship, the guru is actually, it includes a tacit understanding and an acceptance between the guru and the universe that you're going to allow the guru to take the worries from you. And you don't have to be aware of that. But you don't have to play a part in that consciously. I do it, and every guru does it in trickier ways, because if the guru, he or she, ever says to you, "Oh, I'm going to take your worries away," you'd fight like mad. You don't know how to take a statement like that. So it has to be done it has to be done kind of in your sleep, while you're not looking. So that part is completely my responsibility. And if I tell you you're getting close, it's because you're cooperating with me in the right way, that part can get actually done. Because the guru would like to work all of a piece. The guru is a grand artist who would like to paint the whole picture in one day, and can. But the problem is you make the guru into a piece worker. Piece, P-I-E-C-E, not P-A-C-E. Where it's got to be done piece by piece, because you'll only allow this much at once, or you'll only allow that part but not this part. So again, don't use that. Your mind is not to seize that and use that against yourself and say how screwed up you are and how terrible you are. That's just how we do. That's just how we humans do. Because we are, to the degree that we're experiencing ourselves as separate from each other, from the divine, from everything, to that degree we are in resistance. To that degree we are out of tune with the actuality. It doesn't mean the actuality isn't there. It means we're not aware of it. The guru is only and always simply trying to bring you into that awareness so that you're not ignoring it or oblivious to it anymore. You're not to blame. You've been taught to disregard it. It's so obvious. It's so in front of your nose. It's so simple that you literally don't see it, that you just keep stepping over it. Somebody, some kind of agent has to kind of get your attention, stop you in your tracks, and say, no, look at this. And that's why God invented gurus. But to expect that that will happen without some kind of intervention, some kind of assistance that isn't your own idea is like expecting to learn how to fly a rocket ship, build a rocket ship and fly it to the moon from scratch if you're a 3-year-old. It's just not going to happen. Somebody has to help you. If you're asleep, somebody has to wake you up. If you're blind, somebody has to help you see. If you're lame, somebody has to help you walk. You're not blind, you're not lame, but there is no way without divine assistance that you can get the divine, and the Guru is a form of divine assistance. There's no way you can get there without assistance because you are handicapped by the fact that you were born into a human body in a human societal structure. Therefore, you were immediately, even in utero, taught and influenced in certain ways that prevent you, that act as barriers from being really conscious of the actuality. And the process for this is called growing up. I've explained this many times. You can remember when you were a child, when you were innocent enough that you were in touch with that actuality, where your consciousness was not diluted to the degree it becomes in the growing up process and the societal socialization process. They get you to fit in, and the price you pay for that is your consciousness is diminished. The Guru is simply trying to undo that so that you will have the direct experience of life you had when you were 5, when you weren't tainted with adult notions of things, when concepts weren't more important to you than life itself, and where your hopes and desires for the future did not obscure the present moment. Enlightenment is simply going back to when you were 5, but with the experience and wisdom of adulthood, but the innocence of the 5-year-old, the ability to experience directly of the 5-year-old, the non-conceptual, non-interpretive, non-indirect experience of life. You've already experienced it in spades between the ages of 0 and 10. It's not ahead of you, it's behind you. You're simply trying to reconnect with that, and that will change and open everything. And to some degree you already have, because that is included in discipleship. You can't come to the point of discipleship as a factor in your life unless you've already enough and successfully reconnected with what was covered over in you by the growing up process and the pressures of adult life, as we define it, as we are conditioned into it in Western societies and other societies. So go ahead.
I had nothing more to say.
Yeah, so that's correct. That is very good evidence. What you're saying is, I told you you were getting close to worry being not a part of your life, that the ability to worry actually goes away, that you try to worry and you can't do it anymore. You kind of forget how, which to people, those of us still on the side of worry, that hasn't occurred yet, it seems impossible and almost sounds incomprehensible. How can worry actually go away to the point where if you try to worry, you can't do it? Like you can't remember how. Like if I couldn't remember how to get up out of this chair and I'd just have to sit here forever. It is just like that. You forget how. You wonder, how did I do that? How did I make that happen? Because you realize after it's gone, after you lose that ability, which is a wonderful thing, but not a high achievement, you realize for the first time that you were actually doing it, that it wasn't a natural part of life or a natural part of how your mind works, that it was something you were actively insisting on, that you were kind of hauling it in with effort, but you never noticed that while worry is still active for you, is still a force that can happen in you. So you're absolutely correct that is a very good practical evidence that you're getting as close as I told you you're getting, and you'll continue to have more evidence But don't look. The trap is don't sit there kind of anticipating, waiting for the day that worry's gone, because that will delay it. When you're waiting for it, it doesn't come until you stop waiting. In other words, it's the watch pots never boil idea. It's really true when it comes to this. If you're waiting for it, it will not arrive. The moment you forget about it, if it's going to happen, and it should have already happened and didn't because you're waiting for it, the second you stop waiting for it, the first second you forget about it, that's when it'll happen. So this is not something to focus on, but it's certainly perfectly good to notice how it's actually noticeably waning, how situations that you know absolutely clearly that in the past would have intensified the worry, and actually there's less worry than ever. Of course, that's solid evidence that you are moving in the direction of it isn't far away, that worry will be not possible for you anymore. That's absolutely part of the cornucopia of discipleship. Not every disciple allows it, reaches it, but it's certainly available to everyone. You don't even have to be a disciple. It's really available to all human beings, but it tends to not happen except in two ways. The processes that are discipleship or like discipleship, and real advanced, and I'm not talking about chronological age, advanced maturity, where you have the wisdom that degree of wisdom and maturity and reality orientation simply disintegrates any ability to worry. It's simply overridden by your wisdom. It can't withstand being that mature. That mechanism just dissolves because it's kind of made out of paper mache. It's not very strong. It's not a solid mechanism, and it's not part of a natural process of human life. It's something that evolved as an adaptive mechanism and then went haywire somehow. But it can be absolutely undone, and maybe you'll be the first one of my people that can say, I have not a worry in the world and never can ever again. If you're the first, you will get a door prize. That door right there. Someday I'm going to do that. I'm say, we're going to give door prizes, and then I'm going to walk out with a door.
Thank you, Premodaya.
So yes, you should believe me. If I tell you you're getting close to something, you'd be foolish not to believe me, because I never say these things like, I would never say anything like that to a person, because if it wasn't true, I would never say it if it wasn't true, because if it wasn't true and I said it, I would be doing so much harm to you. You have no idea the shit storm of karma I'd be bringing on myself. I'm not that stupid. This is a highly dangerous job, the guru business. It's very dangerous, because if I harm you, I have to pay for that. If I harm you, you don't pay a price for that, I do. And I don't even want to suggest to you the nature of that price. You wouldn't want to think about it. But I'm not worried, because I'm not involved. The guru function is trustworthy. All I have to do is not get in the way, and I am so good at that that it is almost scary how good I am at never mixing up myself with the guru function. And even without an ego, you have to have an ego, of course, to do that. But even without an ego, you can absolutely mix those up. So that's why not anybody and everybody can be appointed as guru. God appoints only people who aren't going to screw it up. And even then, they can screw it up. I know this is hard to conceptualize, but it's so interesting. I love saying it whenever it comes up in any form. God can do absolutely make it exactly right and perfect forever, and it can still get screwed up. I know it goes against everything you've been conceptually filled with, but I'm sorry, that's the transcendent truth. I can't try to make it fit with some ideas that we all have if it doesn't fit, and it doesn't. So you have to just let those ideas be overridden. Your ideas of perfection are not accurate. God can make it perfect. And then things can happen that even if God didn't want them to happen, they happen. This does not fit with any concept of God you've ever had or probably will ever have. That's why I have to get rid of all concepts of God. Because you're thinking of God as the grand wizard controlling everything. And that's selling God way short. That's making God tiny. God is not the God of Oz. He's actual God. He's not the Wizard of Oz. And you're not the Cowardly Lion or the Tin Man or any of it. Although who doesn't love those flying monkeys? I mean, can you be more terrified as a 9-year-old than watching that movie? So you can really, that's how much freedom you've got to understand when I use the word freedom, what I'm really getting at. You have that much freedom that even God can't prevent you. That's how much freedom God gave you as a living consciousness. You have the freedom to absolutely reach the divine, and you have the freedom to absolutely make it all insane and make it all into pure crap. And that includes the freedom to mistake what's right for what's wrong and what's wrong for what's right. And you actually, even though you have no control over anything, you actually have the freedom to go in any direction. If you try to grasp this with the mind, it can't be done because the mind's linear and it doesn't add up. It can't be that you have no control over anything, yet you have the freedom to go and do anything, anywhere, anyhow. That conceptually can't be, but it's the truth, because the truth is not concerned with the conceptualization of anything. So what was I just talking about? Because I didn't make my point. I lost myself. Bring me back. What was I trying to get to?
You like talking about how the guru can't say they're wrong, how God is the absolute freedom of God.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Thank you. So I can't say things to you that aren't the actuality if I'm addressing you directly about where you're at specifically towards a specific issue or dimension or area or whatever it is, like worry, like fear, like awareness, whatever it is. If I tell you something specifically about the position you're in at this point in time or where you're headed, I'm not speculating, I'm not theorizing, I'm not telling you something as here's how I see it. I'm telling you the actuality of it. And you should, I mean, I like how you said, I believe you, because it's not really belief. You're not taking it. I mean, the wording is how we talk, but there's a different meaning to what you mean when you say that. You don't mean I believe you on the level of believing. You mean what you're really saying or indicating, or what those words really are getting at, is I know that as a disciple, I know you're my spiritual master, and you would not say that, a significant statement like I'm close to being worry-free for the rest of my life, I know you wouldn't make a statement like that unless you saw that absolutely for sure and knew it was so. Therefore, I trust that it's so, no matter how much or how not much I can see it or feel it. And then, of course, you do the natural thing, which you just reported, which is if evidence becomes evident to you in the course of your days and weeks, you say, oh, there's some evidence about what he said. Maybe he's right. You try to connect the dots, but you've already pre-accepted that if I'm telling you that, it isn't idle talk. I don't tell people things of that nature for no reason. And I don't tell people things like that most of the time at all because there's no reason to. So if it's said, if the guru function decides to say something to you specific, there's a reason. And that's part of the reason, but only part. Part of the reason is so that you can see the evidence for yourself, so that when it actually is the case, you'll be able to recognize it rather than I have to somehow convince you of where you're at, which is what I have to do with a lot of other things a lot of the time, and that's fine. That's how it works. That's the nature of it. But with certain things, you can simply start to see it for yourself, and I don't have to be pointing out literally everything under the sun. Some things you're more than capable at this point of seeing for yourself, and I'm trying to, as you'll notice, just in the last month or two, trying to get you more and more to take on the responsibility for that consciously, because you would rather that I feed you like you're still a child and you're actually at the point where we don't have to play that game quite so much. But you've got to rise to that and start acting like it. You know what I mean? Am I saying it in a way that you're getting what I'm meaning? Because it's not a criticism. It's not saying you're not doing fine. It's saying that you're actually capable of more than you're giving yourself credit for. And because you're not giving yourself the credit, you're expecting me to take care of things that you're already handling fine. And that's a disservice to yourself. And I'm not going to turn a blind eye to that. And that's true for almost every single individual. Because it's not like there's 5,000 of you. I see there's a few enough of you that I know what's going on with everyone. And even if there were 5,000 of you, and it's quite possible in the future there will be, on the guru function level, there's an awareness of each and every individual. It's way more, I'm way more aware of you individually when there's just a few of you as if there were many, many more of you. I don't know how it works if there's a million of you, but I do know that the connection between initiated disciple and guru is an absolute connection. So it's impossible that even if you never laid eyes on the guru and the guru never lays eyes on the disciple, it's impossible that there isn't, from the guru function side, an awareness of the karmic aspect of that person. So it's quite magical in that sense. I mean, I'm in awe of it, and I don't have any explanation for it other than I can see how it is so, and I can see some of what it's about, but I certainly don't claim to have knowledge of it. I just can see whatever I get to see. I experience it from the inside, and it's quite evident to me what's discernible to me, and that the majority of it isn't and never will be. And you're in the exact same position. That's every human being's position. You know what you know, and that's it. And you aren't going to get more. You have to take what you know absolutely and live it and stand on it. And that's what grows your being. And that's what activates the divine in you to the optimum or maximum degree. It's like the tree that grows to its full height. You're just trying to get to your full height. When you get to your full height, It means you'll be, at the very least, God conscious. You'll know that you're part of God rather than, you'll know it experientially. You'll know it in every living moment rather than you kind of know it when you remind yourself or you go to Satsang or you read a spiritual book or whatever. Just like right now, you're aware that you're a little bit hungry. It's 1 o'clock, so you ate long enough ago that you have some, at least minimal amount of hunger. So you're kind of vaguely aware. It's not in the front of your mind, but you kind of know that you could eat. Now, when you're not hungry at all, there's no feeling like that. There's no sense of that. When you're completely full, it's an hour after you ate and hunger isn't coming back for at least a few hours. There's an obliviousness to that dimension of things, the hunger aspect, the physical bodily nourishment aspect of life. So that's a not very accurate, but good enough analogy of being aware of the divine. It's like you're aware of the hunger. Just like you're aware of being a little bit hungry because it's past lunchtime and you haven't eaten since breakfast. You're aware that you're hungry. It's not a problem. It doesn't make you better than your neighbor. It doesn't make you less than somebody else, more than somebody else. It doesn't make you prettier, handsomer, richer, poorer. You're just aware of it. In the same way, you're aware of the divine. That's the potential that you just can feel it, sense it, know it, no matter what. So if you never had to eat again and you stopped just at that feeling of slightly hungry, that I'm not really hungry, like I have to get up and make sure I get some food right away or I'll be sick, but just I'm aware that I could eat. That level of how it feels, which is not uncomfortable, is very similar to how God consciousness actually feels. You simply are aware without it being a big deal or interfering with anything. You're aware every second that the nature of things is God and that God is, and you're right there, and it's right there, and it's not a problem, and it's not an overbearing thing. It's not a thing that you have to turn into anything or reach in the future. It's the actuality of things apparent to you easily, effortlessly right now. That's not a great analogy. I'm sure I can come up with a better one, but we won't take the time. You're getting the point, I hope, that God consciousness is not a future arising. It's not a future event. It's not something that's going to happen. Divine communion, awareness of the divine, is your situation right now. And either you have turned your attention toward it enough that you actually are aware of the divine, or you haven't yet. And actual discipleship, a real disciple and a real spiritual master who's been given the ordination, the divine ordination, to be able to make that bond between the guru function and you, is simply a conduit for that to happen. And the whole process and experience and actuality of discipleship is simply the casing of divine communion itself. So please, as quickly and as fully as you can, give up all ideas of divine communion is what you're looking for to happen, and it's coming in the future if you're lucky. If you do this thing right, if you succeed somehow, by hook or by crook, then it'll happen. You'll get enlightened. You'll become God conscious. Drop that. Let go of it, because it's a huge barrier, because it's saying to yourself every second, I'm not there. And it's not about where you are. It's about what's here. And can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you plug into it? Discipleship orients you toward it in a way that you kind of have no more choice. You're kind of at the end of the line. You're kind of on the last leg of the trip. But you certainly have the freedom and the power, we all do, to extend that endlessly into about 50 million more lifetimes. Or you can surrender to it now, relax into it now, recognize, be smarter and recognize the nature of this now, and even simply accept that the fact that discipleship came into your life. And I say, whenever I talk like this, remember, I'm not talking as any kind of guru, I'm talking as a disciple. Thank God, not a disciple of me. Unfortunately, you're a disciple of me. I'm a disciple of Osho. I'm the grand prize winner. You simply become aware through that set of conditions of what's really going on. And that is all the proof you're ever going to get until it's intelligible and you understand it, that the divine communion is happening. It isn't something you're going to discover in the future. It's something you're going to stumble over one of these days, one of these moments. And it happens for little instances sometimes for you when you think of me or you walk into Satsang or whatever. But those are kind of like little, blips. I'm talking about the real deal where it's unavoidable, where you can't not be aware of it, where it has you, you're not seeking it. And discipleship, you've got to get it at some point. And I hope today, I hope right now, is divine communion itself. You're experiencing it absolutely as something other or different or less than or even more than that. And all that's fantasy. The actuality is, it simply is divine communion. And when Adida always talks about turn to the Guru, turn to me, he's always saying turn to me. Put your attention on me. That's what he's meaning. He's really exhorting his disciples, but it's every guru's exhortation, to turn toward the divine. Turn toward the recognition of the divine communion being an actuality that's happening right now, not a possible or sought or hoped for future event or future set of conditions or circumstances. It is the current circumstance. It was the circumstance when you were born. It was the circumstance before you were born. It'll be the circumstance after you're dead. It's been the circumstance every second of your life. Discipleship is the window into the understanding of that. And you're standing at the window. And the Guru is simply saying, open your eyes. Wow, it turned into a second discourse, didn't it? Any other questions, reports, or comments? Because I do want to give people a chance when it turns into this much me talking, which, you well know is not typical, then I don't want to rob you of something that's important for you to ask or say. So speak now or forever hold your peace. No questions, no comments, no other reports? That's it? We're calling it a day. So when I see you, I'm always acutely aware that this is divine communion going on. I'm happy for you for it. I'm happy for me for it, that I get to joy of being a conduit for that, but I'm not causing it. That's God's gift to you, and I'm simply employable as a way to get it to you. God's the coffee, I'm the cup. The cup doesn't matter, the coffee matters. But you're the drinker. So when we're together and I'm enjoying the divine communion, this whole conversation today has been simply so that you'll maybe a little bit more also approach it that way, that you are simply enjoying the divine communion. And you can enter it with more that conscious understanding that the divine communion is going on. And then when we're together, it's simply an opportunity to be more consciously and from the heart aware of it. It simply helps in the process of trying to become aware of the divine actuality. But the divine actuality doesn't have to be created. You just have to open yourself to it. We're not creating something. We're trying to experience what's already going on more consciously, with more awareness, with more direct heartfeltness. And all the expansion plan for international centers of divine awakening and having centers in other cities and having all kinds of new and entirely different programming available for all kinds of different types of people is simply trying to cast a wider net for that communion so that more people can benefit from it. Those who are ready, those who want it. We're not going to go out and drag them in. It's simply about outreach, about making it more accessible to a wider range of people because it's worth sharing. It doesn't have to be our little secret. And the party only gets merrier when there are more. So remember, when you leave the center and you go home, or go to work, or go wash the dog, or take a nap, or whatever you're going to do, no change has happened in the divine communion. Let's say it this way. Human birth is being born into divine communion. Discipleship or spiritual work is simply the effort to recognize that for real. So when you come, try to come more in that spirit, more lightheartedly, more like there's nothing ultimate at stake. Try to come with the understanding and the attitude that divine communion is already in every way your position. It's not something you need to find. It's something you need to enjoy. It's something you can recognize more in this moment, in any moment. And you are, and you will.